Appreciate you joining me today. We are going to be looking in Romans chapter 14 at the idea of liberties. Our hymn today is one that I wrote called Lord Help Us.
Lord, as the sun rises, go with us to meet the day. We want to be faithful, Lord. Please bless us with thy grace. Lord, as the day passes, help us to do thy good deeds. Teach us to have faith and works, living to plant thy seed. Lord, as the night settles, forgive us, we humbly pray. Thank you for thy holy word that guides us through our day.
Appreciate John Rogers recording that for me. We're in Romans chapter 14, like I said, talking about liberties. And liberties, you have, what liberties are, is you have multiple courses of action, and you are at liberty to choose which path to go down. Now, there are things that have to be taken into consideration, and we'll see that as we go along. But it begins in verse 1, receive one who is weak in the faith, but not to disputes over doubtful things. For one believes he may eat all things, but he who is weak eats only vegetables. And so the question is, who's the stronger brother? Who is the stronger or the weaker brother? Well, within the context, the stronger brother is the one who's being described as believing he can go down either path. So the stronger one believes he can go this way or that way. He does not say, I can only go this way. He believes he is at liberty. He is convinced that he can go down either path. The weaker brother in the context is the one who says, I can only go down this path. I cannot go down both paths. I can only go down one path. So that's the context. And so, because nobody's ever going to raise their hand and say, oh, I'm the weaker or I'm the stronger. No one's ever going to do that. You have choices. If a person believes that they could choose different paths, then they believe they are at liberty. If another brother believes, nope, there's only one path, and they do not believe they are at liberty. Okay, so that's the situation. Now back in the passage. Let not him who eats despise him who does not eat. Right? One believes he can eat all things, another one, but he who is weak eats only vegetables. You might think about like the eating meat sold in the offered to idols. Jews aren't going to eat that. One person, he knows an idol ain't nothing, but Jews, they're not going to go that road. Okay, so verse 3, now let not him who eats despise him who does not eat, and let not him who does not eat judge him who eats, for God has received him. Who are you to judge another's servant? Right, one person esteems one day above another, another esteems every day alike. Let each be fully convinced in his own mind. Okay, there were Jews who were still there were Jewish Christians who were still keeping the Sabbath. And that's okay. There were Gentiles who didn't see how Saturday was any different than Friday. Let each be fully convinced in his own mind. He who observes the day observes it to the Lord. He who does not observe the day, to the Lord he does not observe it. Same way with eating. None of us lives to himself. No one dies to himself. Stop judging one another. Verse 10. In these matters, stop judging one another. Why do you show contempt for your brother? We all are going to stand before God. And so, therefore, let us not judge one another anymore, but rather resolve this not to put a stumbling block or a cause to fall in our brother's way. I know and am convinced by the Lord Jesus there's nothing unclean of itself, but to him who considers anything to be unclean, to him it is unclean. Yet if your brother is grieved because of your food, you are no longer walking in love. Do not destroy with your food the one for whom Christ died. Okay, there are two principles there that are very important. One is, there in verse 14, to him who considers anything to be unclean, to him it is unclean. If our heart condemns us, if we violate our own conscience, it's wrong. It's sinful. We're not walking by faith at that point, and we have to walk by faith. And so, in a sense, and this is important to understand, in these matters, we determine, on a certain level, we determine whether something is unclean or not. To him who considers anything to be unclean. Paul says, I know and am convinced there's nothing unclean of itself. I know that. But for those who consider something to be unclean, to them it is unclean. In their own mind, they have determined it's unclean, and so to them it is unclean. That's hard. That's hard to get our minds wrapped around. But that's the truth of the matter. I want you to think about Peter. Peter's a hard, tough situation. That's probably why the Lord uses him. When the Lord lets that sheet down and says, rise, Peter, kill and eat, he does it 3 times, and we know what Peter says. I've never eaten anything unclean. Now, what the Lord was talking about was Gentiles. And my point is, I really doubt the next morning that Peter woke up and said, Yeehaw, I can finally have some bacon. I really doubt Peter did that. The lesson was about the Gentiles. But Peter still having, and we know Peter will still have a lot of trouble with certain principles going forward. But it is not as though, when Jesus said, it is not that which goes into the mouth that defiles a man. It's what comes out. So do not mistake the Lord telling Peter, rise, Peter, kill and eat. That's about the Gentiles. Do not get the picture in your mind of a child. You know, when you try to feed a child the whole airplane game, and the child's, I don't want you to get the image that God is trying to ram pork down Peter's mouth. I think that would be a mistake. That's about the Gentiles. Now, is God forcing the issue with the Gentiles? Yes. But for those Jews who are having trouble with these concepts, to them it was unclean. And that was them. And that was to a certain degree, that was up to them. If they violated their own conscience, they would be sinning. So on a certain level, they themselves determined these things were clean or unclean. Paul was convinced, but not everybody was. But now verse 15. If your brother is grieved because of your food, you're no longer walking in love. You do not destroy with your food the one for whom Christ died. So on a certain level, you determine what's unclean, but on another level, your brother determines what is unclean. You have to think about their conscience. If Peter tried to cram pork down someone else's mouth, one of his fellow Jews, if Paul tried to do that, it would have been wrong. Like, no, you're not walking in love. The kingdom is not eating and drinking. And so that's why Paul says, if eating meat offends my brother, I'm never going to eat meat. I am going to let their conscience dictate my actions. How can I do that? Because Paul understood he's at liberty. He could go down either path. He could eat or not eat. And so rather than saying, oh, well, I'm going to eat, and you can just lump it, he says, no, if eating meat offends you, I'm not going to eat. I don't want to make you stumble. I don't want to cause you to stumble. And that's the thing that read on in the account. Therefore, let us pursue the things which make for peace and the things by which one may edify another. We pursue the things that build each other up. For these liberties, we don't want to tear people down over liberties. We're not going to dispute over liberties. Right? They're liberties. And so what we do is we pursue the things that make for peace. Whether that's eating or not eating. We're going to pursue the things that make for peace and the things by which we may edify another. If you have faith, verse 22, keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself before God. Happy is he who does not condemn himself in what he approves, but he who doubts is condemned if he eats, because he does not eat from faith. Whatever is not from faith is sin. So if you have it to yourself before God. There are certain things that should be kept private so that we do not cause others to stumble, because we don't want to cause them to stumble. We want to build people up. And so we pursue the things make for peace and things that edify. Appreciate you. Hope you have a good day. Join us tomorrow for another portion of our daily praise.